Welcome to 80s TV Ladies with your hosts, Sharon Johnson and Susan Lambert Hatem.
Hello, I'm Sharon.
And I'm Susan. Welcome to our new listeners. And thank you, everyone, for supporting this show and for voting last week.
A lot has happened in the last 2 weeks. So even though we're not a timely podcast, we picked up quite a few new listeners and followers this week because of several happenings.
First, we were nominated for a Webby Award for Best Indie Podcast. Hey, Sharon, do you know who else was nominated for a Webby Award in some other categories?
Well, I think someone that you may have heard of, like Michelle Obama.
Michelle Obama?
Indeed. And another person you may have heard of, Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift was also nominated for a Webby Award?
She sure was.
With us? I also heard her boyfriend. Who's that guy? Jesse Kelsey, the cool football guy. Come on, Sharon. Help me out here.
Susan, Travis Kelsey.
Oh, well, they were both nominated in different categories for a Webby, as well as President Barack Obama and Ryan Gosling.
Apparently, this is a fun, big deal. The 28th Webby Awards are overseen by the International Academy of Digital Arts and Sciences, the IADAS. Categories span websites, advertising, PR, apps, games, media, and of course, podcasts.
Woo!
We're nominated for Best Indie Podcast, so we're not in the same category as maybe some of the other folks we've been mentioned, but we were all nominated.
We were all nominated. This year's awards received almost 13,000 entries from all 50 states and more than 70 countries. We find out the Webby results today, Sharon, April 23rd. That's right now. So right now we might even know today whether we're winners or one of those really cool nominees that means it's great to be nominated.
Which it is.
It is. But you know what, Sharon? We're all winners. I think us, the Obamas, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Olivia Rodrigo. Even if none of us win an actual Webby today, we're all listed on the same press release for nominees with all of them. So I'm feeling pretty high, pretty hot on the collar. I don't know.
Listen, truly, congratulations to all the nominees and the winners today. And thank you to the IADAS and the Webby Awards for honoring indie podcast and giving the little gals a chance.
I know. And, I'm super grateful no matter what has happened today. And we still don't know. I mean, we know now when you're listening to this, but we didn't know when we recorded it. And we have had so many wonderful people helping us out the last couple weeks. Our own Weirding Way Media Network and WWM's co-founder, Chris Stachiw of the Kulturecast.
The team at Astonishing Legends. The kings of the most awesome paranormal podcast kingdom, Scott Philbrook and Forrest Burgess, shouted us out on their podcast, which was super wonderful.
And I am a producer on and wife to Richard Hatem of the Richard Hatem's Paranormal Bookshelf. And I think a few people might be showing up here because of that. So welcome to 80s TV Ladies. I think I'm pretty cool, but I'm not sure I'm as cool as Rich makes me sound on his show.
She actually is as cool as he makes her sound.
Oh, come on. No. All right. But you will not get as much personal information from us on this show that you get on Rich's show. And for our listeners that don't know what I'm even talking about, I highly recommend you go find Richard Hatem's Paranormal Bookshelf. It is like no other podcast I've ever listened to. I am a producer on it. I am married to him. But I got to tell you, it's really quite special. Come for the books, stay for the surprising amount of oversharing.
I'm not married to him, and I'm not a producer on the show, and I love it. So please give it a chance. And then finally, Dan Provenmeyer, the creator of Phineas and Ferb, also sent a TikTok to his followers and fans to get them to vote for us for the Webbies. Thank you for all who did that. And welcoming any fans that came this way because of Dan. This is not an animation podcast, though we will cover animation, and maybe we'll have Dan on the show at some point so we can talk about 80s television, because I know he was inspired by 80s TV.
Dan Povenmire and I go way back to college and to the days when he was sleeping in his car and on my couch and selling his comic book Life is a Fish on the streets. I am, of course, a huge fan of him and his shows. I have to say I heard about Phineas and Ferb way back before it was even a thing, when he was pitching it and drawing it on napkins. And I got to see an early animatic pitch for Hamster and Gretel and shared it with my kids all before they were picked up. So that's some pretty special Dan Povenmire inside scoop for you.
So if you're looking for totally fabulous 80s content or cool content about television, pop culture, with a little society thrown in, this might be a really great podcast for you. So hit that follow and let's see what happens.
And Sharon, for all those paranormal fans, we'll be talking about the X-Files and Scully, played by Gillian Anderson, and, because that was a unique and spectacular female role from 90s TV.
We already talked this season with Matt Baum about Bewitched, which starred two amazing and fabulous witches, Samantha and Dora, played respectively and respectably by Elizabeth Montgomery and Agnes Moorehead.
I love those actresses, and you can tell I'm reaching for our paranormal content by claiming that. But we just touched on the show in our Queer TV episode, which you should check out with Matt Baum. We also did one with Rainbow Remix. And, I learned a lot of stuff in both of those episodes that I did not know, especially that if you replace witch folk with queer folk in Bewitched, it's coded pretty gay, that show.
Indeed. So for anyone new coming aboard, welcome. Pull up a chair or stay in your car or keep walking, doing laundry, whatever you do when you listen to podcasts. We cover female-driven television shows from the 1980s from a modern feminist perspective.
And we have on special guests, from stars in front of the camera to many people behind the camera, above and below the line, the men and women who are responsible for making and loving these amazing shows. That's who we try to get on this show, and we often are successful.
We've been amazingly successful, surprisingly, wonderfully successful. And sometimes it's just Susan and I talking with an occasional insightful interjection from our producer, Melissa Roth, who makes sure we stay on track and on time.
But not today, Sharon. Melissa is out of town, so we're kind of off the leash. Who knows what we could talk about, and who knows what we can be doing today? We might be doing cartwheels. We might be saying all sorts of things we shouldn't be, because Melissa is not here to stop us.
Well, she doesn't really stop us. Often she encourages us.
Okay, Sharon, that is true. But what is the fun in saying that we just miss Melissa?
Well, we do. We definitely miss Melissa. It's very strange that when she's not here. So in any event, check back in our catalog if you remember any of the following shows: Scarecrow and Mrs. King, Remington Steele, Cagney and Lacey,
9 to 5, It's a Living, more Scarecrow and Mrs. King, because we covered that too, some TV herstory experts and podcasters, queer representation experts, and even WGA Writers Guild and strike captains.
Do you remember Designing Women? Do you remember Moonlighting? We've also covered those shows as well. And coming up, we'll wrap season 2 by looking at the groundbreaking show, A Different World, and talking with the people who made it. We have some great guests coming up.
I cannot wait. And Sharon, season 2, this season we're in right now, for which we've been nominated for a WEBBY. Just gonna throw that out there again, because maybe we won a WEBBY.
You never know.
Maybe we didn't win a WEBBY, but it's really, really, really great to be nominated.
Indeed.
But this has been our longest season we've ever done out of 2 seasons. I thought, it'll be fun to do 23 episodes in season 2, because that was typically the season order for 80s television shows. They would do between 20 and 26 episodes, but I think the standard was 23. However,
Yes, we've gone way over that because we had to add Moonlighting into the season. Poor us. Having to add
we
Moonlighting.
had to talk to Glenn Gordon Caron. We had to talk to Cheryl Main. We had to talk to so many amazing people. Anyway, we will be doing at least 28 episodes in season 2. I don't think I'm ever going to do that again. It's a double-sized season, Sharon. I think we can't. I think we bit off a little more than we could properly chew.
Well, maybe not. We were close, but I think we managed to get through it all, despite all the extra work that we lovingly undertook. and put together a really great season for our listeners.
It is true. I'm really proud of this season. It has been so much fun talking to everybody. Soon, we will be announcing some of the shows we plan to cover in season 3. We're cooking up some exciting things for 80s TV ladies. What shows do you, dear listener, think we should cover? Email us at 80stvladies@gmail.com. That's 80stvladies@gmail.com. Or visit 80stvladies.com to let us know what 80s ladies television shows we should be talking about for season 3.
And now, back to our regularly scheduled programming for the people we love and who support us.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant.
Oh my gosh, Sharon, we have so many listeners to also thank who I know voted for us and who have reached out to us on email, YouTube, the website, Facebook. And then we went on holidays, and then we went to Podfest, and then we went to Podcast Movement. And so we're absolutely, totally behind in shouting out our fans. And we love to do that because we love our listeners. And I hope you know, dear listeners, that we are always thinking of you. And we love hearing and reading your comments and your emails, even if it takes us a long time to get back to you or shout you out. We're catching up, though. All right. So are we calling it Mailbag?
80s TV Ladies Mailbag.
80s TV Ladies Mailbag. Shall we see what's in the 80s TV Ladies Mailbag?
Yes, please.
That was my in-room sound effects that Kevin will replace with something that sounds like opening an envelope. All right. So from YouTube, I want to shout out Kathy and her mini Aussie, 1949, for her comment on our 80s fashion with costume designer Eilish Zabrowski episode. Thank you, Kathy.
We also heard from Alice T. about the Scarecrow and Mrs. King episode with Martha Smith. She said, have to say Martha did a great job as Francine Desmond. Love SMK. Don't we all?
Yes, we do. And on YouTube, my friend Larry Gonzalez has so many great comments. And I called him Larry G once before, and Larry said, nope, you got to say my whole name. I've known Larry for a long time. Thank you for listening. And Larry has incredible comments and a lot of information. I think Larry should have his own podcast because he knows everything about the Beatles and 70s and 80s music and television. And so his comments are always really informative. So check out the one at Favorite TV Theme Songs with What Difference Does It Make podcast. That's one of his favorite episodes.
He also was a big fan of our It's a Living episode with Paul Kreppel. Loved our interview with Paul.
All right, so keep them coming. I want to shout out to TL. Thank you so much again for name checking everyone on Facebook of our 1980s ABC promo that we posted. You put everybody up there and gave us all the names of everyone who appeared, and it was just so great. And I'm so grateful that you're enjoying the show and sort of exploring these shows with us on Facebook.
Next up is Carolyn H., who loved the conversation with Stephanie Zimbalist and is looking forward to watching her Remington Steele DVDs again. Can't say I blame her.
And a big shout out to our Patreon supporter, Kate. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for supporting. I'm sorry I didn't get to meet you when Sharon and Melissa did get to meet you at the Scarecrow and Mrs. King 40th reunion episode event. But I'm someday, one day, we'll have a meetup. Thank you so much.
Next, of course, is Anne, your sister.
That's not my sister. Oh, it is.
Great thanks to Anne, another one of our wonderful Patreon supporters, for her comments about how much she loves the show, and we love her. So please keep listening.
And she also wanted us to cover Too Close for Comfort, which we do talk about, and Nancy DeSalt, which we haven't really talked about, but there's lots of terrific actresses on that. And we are very excited for her to hear our upcoming episodes and that she's a patron. Thank you for supporting the arts and 80s TV ladies. We're reaching way back into the mailbag because
gotta get down to the bottom of the bag.
We'll never get down to the bottom of the bag, but we got to get through the bag.
We also heard from Ginger, who had found an article in which Tyne Daly gives her word for the 21st century. If you'll recall from our conversation with her, Susan and I provided the word we thought described the 21st century, but we neglected to make sure that we got Tyne's response. And according to this article, the word of the 21st century from Tyne is remote. Now we all know.
Yes. And, and a big shout out to Ginger, who's also a good supporter and fan of the show. And a really, really big shout out to Tyne Daly. And we're wishing her lots of love.
Yes. Okie doke.
Thank you, dear listeners. So we'll have more 80s TV Ladies mailbag coming up. And, we want to hear from you. We are going to be joining the world of TikTok. We're on there, but we haven't made any posts in a long time because I like to say I'm an early adopter, late updater.
Well, we're still getting up to speed with TikTok and figuring out how we really want to use it.
Yeah. So if you have any suggestions or if you're on TikTok, let us know and start following us there. And we will try to follow you back as soon as we figure out how all of that works. We will. So look for more TikTok from us at TikTok.com/80s TV Ladies, I think. Is that how TikTok works? Just search at 80s TV Ladies. Look for the two ladies who don't know what they're doing. I think it's time for an in memoriam.
Okie doke.
So we've lost some wonderful 80s TV ladies recently. Our goal at 80s TV Ladies is to celebrate and highlight the history and accomplishments of women in television, particularly those who don't always get as much credit as they deserve. So we salute the following 80s TV ladies in memoriam.
Chita Rivera.
Joyce Randolph.
Lynn Marta.
Ruth Ashton Taylor.
April Ferry.
Glynis Johns.
Cindy Morgan.
And Shirley Ann Field. We'll have links in our description for why those ladies are shouted out.
And where you can find out more about them. For today's audiography, our former guest Matt Baum has a YouTube channel where he does quick dives into various types of TV shows. And we'd like to recommend that you take a quick look at the one called Bewitched. It was gay all along. So we'll have a link in our show description that'll take you right to it.
And, of course, the podcast I'm going to shout out today is once again Richard Hatem's Paranormal Bookshelf.com. You can find it there or wherever you listen to your podcast. Just search Richard Hatem's Paranormal Bookshelf. Pretty much if you get to Richard Hatem, you'll probably just come right up.
Give it a listen. It's really great. On our next episode, we're continuing our Directing Ladies series with the incredibly smart, award-winning, ceiling-shattering director, writer, and producer, Jan Eliasberg.
Miss Eliasberg's first TV directing job was on one of our favorite shows, Cagney and Lacey.
She was the first female director for Miami Vice, Crime Story, and 21 Jump Street. She's got some great stories for us, so we'll look forward to sharing that with you.
You do not want to miss it. Hey, and tell a friend and join us, and let's all go see if we've won a WEBBY Award.
Oh, goodness.
But it's always nice to be nominated.
Oh, it's fantastic to be nominated. Are you kidding?
Really is fantastic.
There are how many thousands and thousands of indie podcasts that weren't nominated?
I know.
So, wow.
You should listen to all 5 that were nominated.
Absolutely.
They're all cool.
Yeah. As always, we hope 80s TV Ladies brings you joy and laughter and lots of fabulous new and old shows to watch, all of which lead us forward toward being amazing ladies of the 21st century. Thanks, guys.